Hello, everyone. I'm John Soroka with Soroka Brand Development and also the Mortgage Technology and Marketing Committee Chair. And welcome to our webinar today, Using Cybersecurity to Build Trust and Drive Originations. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to know that according to the FBI, the Internet Crime Complaint Center saw a 480% increase in the number of complaints filed in 2016 by those in the real estate industry. Most of these complaints were related to wire fraud. This past June, news broke that a real estate phishing scam cost a New York State Supreme Court judge over $1 million. Think about this. How badly would you or your company's reputation be affected by a major security breach? What would that do in terms of public opinion and trust in your company? In this day and age, taking a proactive stance with your cybersecurity is an important trust-building factor and starts internally with your own people as they see that you take protecting your clients' data seriously. So today we're going to discuss, first, why trust matters more in our industry than others. Secondly, how to gain a competitive edge with cybersecurity as a trust builder. Thirdly, why the time is now to make your move on this. Fourth, how to develop trust-building marketing messages to the public, your clients, and your staff. And also how to maintain trust during a breach. And there's a whole lot more that we're going to cover today. So, with us today, I am thrilled to present to you two industry experts from CyberCecurity, a premier provider with many clients in the industry. Ray Hutchins is the cybersecurity consultant and managing partner of CyberCecurity, and Mitch Tanenbaum, the partner and technical director with CyberCecurity. By way of some background, this webinar is a production of the Mortgage Technology and Marketing Committee. The committee was formed to support the development and dissemination of new technologies and marketing strategies that the mortgage industry needs to embrace. With that, over to you, Ray.
Thank you very much, John. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this event today. I think you're going to find it very valuable and very interesting and very entertaining. So let's dive into it. Okay, so a quick overview of today's totally non-technical training session. By the way, that's because we take the position that cybersecurity is mainly a business problem, not an IT problem. We're going to cover trust, cybersecurity, and the mortgage industry. We're going to cover how cybersecurity can be a powerful trust builder. We're going to cover how cybersecurity marketing messages, we're going to go into cybersecurity marketing messages that build trust and drive sales, and we're going to deal with maintaining hard-won trust during a breach or an incident. So, starting off, our qualifications will be teaching this material to you today. We're directly connected to MBA and all other mortgage lending associations. We've got over 20 years plus of mortgage industry experience. Many of you may have already met my partner, Mitch Tanenbaum. He's been a speaker for years at many mortgage industry events, many MBA events as well. And we've got lots of clients in your industry. You can find testimonials about us at that location, and then that's our website. That's the only commercial you'll get today. So let's talk about trust and reputation. Many of you, we already know that trust is extremely hard to build, very easy to lose. I mean, my basic philosophy with trust with people is, you know, I trust you and I trust my mother. And lately, I'm not so sure about her. So it's a tough one, trust is, and we've got to be careful with it. Talking about that, do you trust Equifax? I mean, can you believe what happened? All of us are still reeling from that particular trust breaker. And why was the Equifax breach so disturbing to us? Well, besides, of course, the fact that the CEO was allowed to take off with a $14 million bonus instead of going to jail, it was, and what do mortgage companies and Equifax share? The bottom line is they share the amount of private information that each is entrusted with. A lot of trust goes into your relationship between you and your customers, and that's something that has to be respected and honored all the way through your relationship. Another thing between Equifax and the mortgage lending industry is the fact that both are part of the financial services sector. which happens to be the most attacked sector in 2016. IBM's X-Force research team, they did a research on this, and it was pretty simple. The reason that the cyber criminals were going after the financial services sector is because that's where the money is. And so it just makes sense. So there's got to be a higher level of diligence in terms of maintaining trust, and we're going to help you with that today. Now let's start off with the basic question. Do you think the mortgage industry has a cybersecurity problem? Well, there may be a few of you out there still that thinks not, but we can tell you as insiders in your industry, you've got a problem, and you've got a big problem. I've got one case study, recent case study here. Mitch, will you please take this case study and talk about it?
Well, we have a client in the mortgage industry, mid-tier client, who was the subject of phishing attacks that were designed to go off and get their customers to go off and wire money to banks offshore somewhere rather than to the closing agent. And this is happening on a recurring basis. The phishing attacks are very efficient. They go off and have a lot of information about the loan, about the processor who might be normally communicating with the customer. Even though we've been able to go off and identify where these emails are coming from a particular Comcast account, and even including the fact that the FBI is involved in this now, it's very difficult to shut this down. So what we've done is work with the client to go proactively change their procedures so that they don't get in the middle of it, even though these clients, these end customers are receiving these phishing emails, they don't fall victim to them. But it's an interesting challenge. They are getting significant brand attack from the real estate sector, from the realtors, saying it's their fault, when in fact it's not particularly their fault. It's an industry-wide problem. And so our objective in working with them is to go off and make sure that their brand doesn't suffer as a result of this.
And that was the issue. That was a big core component. This is the reputation of our client was being hurt, not only with the borrowers, but with the realtors. It turned out in this particular case, the problem here was the realtors. But before that was totally uncovered, the realtors were definitely accusing the mortgage lender of problems, and they were spreading this negative message. That was a serious problem. The FBI has gotten involved, which is great news. And so if any of you guys out there, any of you have similar problems that you're experiencing with these wire frauds and whatnot, ping us, and we'll be happy to put you in contact with the correct person at the FBI so that you can coordinate your activities and your responses with the FBI. So there's along this line, there's an amazing must-read article in the November 2016 CMBA magazine that is entitled, "Is the Mortgage Lending Industry the Next Equifax?" Now, it's amazing for a lot of reasons. It's a great article. Mitch and I wrote it also, and it's in your own industry publication. So I'm hoping that you've all already read this article, but if you haven't, we're going to go over the essential elements of this article right now because it bears upon the subject we're talking about. So we did a survey, and the results are in the article. We did a survey of 6,240 independent mortgage lenders. It's 3 simple questions. That's all. Does your company have a written information security program? Very simple. Number 2, does your company have written cybersecurity policies approved by top management and distributed to all employees? Number 3, does your company conduct annual third-party cyber risk assessments? These 3 items are core essential elements of any cybersecurity program. So if you've got a program, you're going to deal with these 3 elements. Those are the questions we asked. And here are the results. Now, we had about 10% open rate. We had about a 2% participation rate where they actually answered it, 141 answers, and then the rest of them were emails were open without a response. Now, so we got 141 responses off those 6,240 emails. Frankly, I was surprised, considering the sensitive nature of the 3 questions. I was surprised that we got as many responses back as we did, because whoever's responding is telling the responding to someone with information about their cybersecurity program. Not particularly a good idea, but nonetheless, we appreciated the response and the input. But you'll see from the responses, do you have a WISP? Do you have a cybersecurity policies? Do you conduct risk assessments? Low numbers. And when you compare it to the entire survey group, very, very low. So to answer the question, does the mortgage lending industry have a cybersecurity problem? We can tell you, you do. It is a problem, and it is a real problem, and it's a threat to your organizations and your reputation. Now, here is the bottom line. We're going to go through this, and we're going to read this because everyone on this call today needs to be aware of this. In addition to the ethical and moral responsibilities you have to your customers to protect the sensitive data they entrust to you, mortgage lenders are under the regulatory domain of many government agencies, such as state regulators, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and others, plus a variety of laws, such as the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA, you've heard about that, and state privacy laws of every state in which the company has clients, as opposed to states in which the company has offices. This, of course, is separate from and in addition to state loan compliance regulations. Additionally, and this is big, if you do business in the state of New York, you must comply with the New York Department of Financial Services cybersecurity regulations. Now, New York came out with this. Some of you may be aware of this already, but this is the best practices of cybersecurity regulations that we have seen with respect to the financial services sector. This is very well done, and this law, this regulation that they put out, we believe you will be seeing in the state of California very shortly. We've already got information that state examiners are already using this regulation and the components of it for examinations, and other states are looking at it. So there is a lot of regulation out there already that you guys need to be aware of and can be a factor in your lives. Okay, even within your own industry, Al Stanley, writing for the Scotsman Guide, says, in a crowded mortgage marketplace, borrowers are more likely to select originators who understand cybersecurity and can intelligently address their concerns. That's already known within your industry. Understand cybersecurity and can intelligently address their concerns. Those of you participating in this event today will be in a better position to understand cybersecurity and intelligently address your clients' concerns as a result of today's information. Now, do mortgage companies have a choice about this cybersecurity issue? I mean, your customers are expecting it. It's ethically the correct thing to do, and it's legally required. Well, I mean, you can look at this two ways. Either you can look at it as a problem, and you've got to do it because people are telling you to do it, or you can think of it right now as a sales opportunity. This is an opportunity for you, but you've got to be willing to seize it and seize it proactively. And now is the time to move on this. Your customers expect it, and we can tell you as insiders in your industry, and we have a strong pulse on what's going on in your industry, your competitors are dead in the water. They have not started to move on this. This will not last forever, of course, as these regulations roll out and the compliance is being forced on the industry. This is going to change, but right now you can seize it and you can provide a valuable service to your customers and get a market edge over your competition. We're going to show you how. Marketing departments seek messages that, of course, resonate with customers and help the organization build its brand and increase sales, obviously. But can you build trust with cybersecurity? Is it even possible? And we've got another case study about this that just occurred with us recently. Mitch, will you take this case study, please?
Yes, this is a PEO organization that deals with high-end clients, big multinationals, and executives of those firms. And they have decided that for their organization, it's important for them to go off and have a very proactive, highly branded cybersecurity program. They happen to be under the impact of the European General Data Protection Regulation. And so they're going off and focusing on this. They have got high-level executive support. They want to be fully compliant by the deadline for this particular regulation, GDPR, and they're basically going to say, you know, we're going to go spend the money and spend the effort necessary to go off and do that, and they're doing that very publicly.
And when we were working with this client, we were absolutely amazed and impressed with the level of commitment that they had and their understanding of the power of this message in the marketplace. And they were just all in on it, and that's what it takes to make the thing happen. It's like you don't have a choice to start with, so why make it difficult? Why not use it to your advantage? That's the point we would like to make with you. So let's assume for a second that your company is all in too. Let's talk about some cybersecurity marketing messages designed for you to build trust and increase sales. So we recommend 3 core cybersecurity messages. 1, a message to your potential customers. Another one, a message to your active customers. And then 3, a message to staff, including LOs. Somebody's got a phone ringing there. All messages, by the way, we need to note that all messages must be approved by the legal department. So let's go with number 1, message to potential customers. Okay, let's start with the obvious. Let's start with what your customer already knows, right? We recognize that we collect a large amount of your private information. Okay, that's a given. Number 2, we recognize that we have legal and ethical responsibilities to you to protect your information. Okay, that's what they want to hear. We have an active cybersecurity program in our company that is supported by everyone, including top management. And then the last point, we are happy to discuss this with you at any time. That is exactly the message your potential customers want to hear from you with respect to this. Now, you want to make sure that if you're making the statement that you've got an active cybersecurity program, that you've actually got one. But if you've got one, then this is the story that you want to say. So to gain that trust with people. And then you want to put this message on your website and in any printed literature that you've got. Now, at a message at the bottom of all emails to potential customers, and it doesn't have to be this exact message, but you want to cover this particular thing. And this is one that we've drafted. XYZ Mortgage Company is proactively engaged in protecting your money. That's the bottom line, right? Protecting your money and your personal information during and after all real estate transactions. We are working to comply with the highest cybersecurity standards for our industry. Doesn't say that you have complied with them yet, right? It says you're working to comply with them. We believe our aggressive cybersecurity program sets us apart from the other mortgage companies. It does. I'm telling you right now, it does. Please feel free to ask any of our staff about how we work to protect your data and your money. We are serious about earning your trust. Oh my God, there is no such other message out there right now in the marketplace. You'll be it. Okay, before you get started, make sure that all your staff know how to correctly articulate that message. I mean, everybody's got to be saying the same thing. If half the staff knows the message and the other staff doesn't even know that it exists, well, that's going to be a problem. You want to train your staff on the message via your security awareness training program. Now, as part of your overall cybersecurity program, there is a thing called a security awareness training program, and this information right here needs to be part of it. That's why I'll be saying as we move through here that the marketing department should be part of the cybersecurity team, should be part of the incident response team, because the marketing department is making this message clear to clients and active customers and staff. And the marketing department, quite frankly, knows how to build good messages that resonate with people. Okay, message number 2. Message to active customers. We're going to up the ante a little bit right here. So we start off with the basic things that we talked about already. We recognize we collect a lot of information. We recognize we've got legal and ethical responsibilities to protect that information. And we have an active cybersecurity program in our company that's supported by everyone, including top management. Now, if in your company you can't get top management to support the thing, well, you're dead in the water. It's just not going to happen. And so once the generals in charge get behind it, everybody else lines up and makes it happen. If the generals are not in charge, everybody else knows it, and they're not going to move. That's reality. That's just the reality of the game. So that's why that language is in there. Now what we're changing here for message to active customers. Here are some specific ways we protect your information and the sanctity of this business transaction. Well, we've got an active cybersecurity program, and we have wire fraud protection procedures. So, but your customer is going to want to know, well, what does that mean? So, elements of an active cybersecurity program. Now, in a best case scenario, these are all elements of the program. These are all the basic elements. You may not, in reality, have all of these elements built into your program when you get started. Okay, whatever elements you've got, put them out there. You know, a written information security program, annual risk assessment, policies. You can see the different pieces. All of these elements are drawn from the New York Department of Financial Cybersecurity regulations. So these are the elements approved by the industry and the financial services. So you would want to tell them some details about your program. Now, elements of a wire fraud protection procedure. You need a procedure. Many of you have a procedure. I know that companies out there do have procedures with respect to wire fraud. But if you don't, here are the elements. Or even if you do, make sure your procedure has these elements in it. First of all, a written procedure approved by top management. Number two, someone directly responsible for enforcing the procedure. That's important. Someone's got to be responsible for making this thing happen. You've got to train, not just tell people. You've got to train everyone involved to follow this procedure. Then you've got to track all transactions and application and the application of the procedures to those transactions. You got to know that it's going on. You've got to be able to document that you're doing it and it's going on. Make sure that all borrowers and other parties are fully informed that you've got a procedure. And then the enforcement of this procedure never ends. Those are the pieces of it. We can help you make this happen in more detail, of course, but those are the elements, and that's what you're going to tell your customer that you do for them. And they're going to note it. They're going to know the difference. Now, there's possible ways to deliver these messages: in email, in person, via printed document, and are you going to get a signature on that or not? Ask your lawyer, ask your attorney what you should do internally. But you can go so far as getting a signature on that to confirm that they understand what the procedure is, because you want them to participate in that procedure. You don't want them to click on the wrong email and wire their money to the wrong outfit. No, you want them controlled in that process. Your third message, it's got to go to your staff, because they're key in this. Without them, well, the thing goes into meltdown. So again, we recognize we collect a lot of customer private information. Everyone should be on board with that. We recognize we have legal and ethical responsibilities. Everyone's got to recognize, look, we're hanging out here. We've got to get this done. We've got to protect it. It's important. We have an active cybersecurity program. You want everyone to know you've got a program. You want all of them to be on board and participating in it, including top management. And you, as a staff, are a key part of that program. Here are some ways we protect our customers' information and the sanctity of the mortgage business transaction. And then you go into the same stuff I just showed you about the program and the wire fraud. Those are the three basic core messages that have to go out. Now, all staff needs to be thoroughly trained on all cybersecurity messages. Exclamation point. Make this part of the security awareness training program. Marketing can be a primary driver for this. Evangelize passionately. I am evangelizing passionately to you right at this moment, because I am in the cybersecurity business and I know the problem facing the country right now with the theft of information, the theft of personal data, the theft of money in the country. I see it. I see the threat to us every day. This is not a joke. This is for real out there. We don't have the right things going on in the country to deal with this for lots of different reasons, but it is a big deal. And the marketing department, this can be a mission for the marketing department, because it can give you an edge. It can give you a different kind of message. Everyone in the mortgage industry is selling a commodity. I mean, we all know that. And so how do you get an edge? How do you differentiate yourself? Service. Everyone says they've got service. Great. Well, here's a component of service for you that you're not talking about right now. But this is an important component of service, and we encourage you to dive into this and for marketing to actually lead the fight on this. What a great thing that would be. 75-25, what does that mean? That means that when we speak to audiences, and we speak to lots of different kinds of audiences, my intuitive feel when we get through with an audience is that 25% of the audience is going to do something about it, 75% isn't. Okay, that's kind of the reality. That's our sense on things out there in the world right now with respect to cybersecurity. Now, but since you guys don't have a choice, again, this is an opportunity for you. Now, okay, so let's go to the worst case scenario here. Let's say you've got a security breach. If you have a security breach, now there's a threat to your reputation. There's a threat to your trust with your clients and everybody doing business with you. So what do you do now? How do you handle this breach out there? So let's say you had a breach. So what could happen? First of all, loss of business related to loan originator plus customer defections and brand damage, expenses associated with legal defense, settlements, accounting, client credit monitoring, identity rebuilding, plus IT, cybersecurity and forensics work, regulatory penalties and expenses. I mean, it can stack up pretty fast. If right now the various regulators out there, they've got their hands full trying to roll out this cybersecurity stuff around the country. And so they're not out there doing a lot of proactive checking up on you. However, if you have a breach, well, then that changes the game. That's when these guys swoop in on you and look at your situation, see, were you doing anything at all on this thing, or were you just asleep at the wheel, despite all the regulations, despite everything you're reading in the newspaper every day and hearing on the news every day? Are you guys just sitting out there doing nothing? At that point, that's when they're going to drop some big penalties and fines on you. At that point, they're going to use you as the example for everybody else. And that is going to ruin your reputation. It's not something that you want, but not necessary for it to happen. How to maintain trust during a breach? Well, number one, be a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. Be totally prepared with all your procedures up to date. And so all the procedures in your program, you want to be prepared. You want to be ready to go. You want to have an incident response plan, including crisis communication procedures. So, and you want to be rehearsed and ready to go. In a cybersecurity program, you have this thing called an incident response program or an incident response plan. And that's basically a book, a 3-ring binder. You don't want this document in your IT system because your IT system may be down if you've got an incident or breach going on, right? So you don't want that there. You want to have this on a shelf that you can pull it down, open up page 1 and go, okay, let's start making calls. Let's start bringing things together here. Let's start notifying people what we're going to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through it. What happened with Equifax? One of the big things that happened with Equifax was that they didn't have a good incident response plan. A big company like them. And their messages were muddled and not coordinated, and they didn't know what they were doing, and it showed bad, and everyone lost trust. These guys don't know what they're doing. Now, we're all vulnerable to breaches. Even if you have the very best cybersecurity program in the world, you still can be breached. Now, the odds are much less, of course, but it is still possible. But the deal, the way you handle it is going to, when you're talking about trust, that's going to be the big deal. That's going to be it. You admit the problem. We've got a problem. You don't hide from it. You don't pretend like, no, you admit it, because that's step number 1. You admit it, and you show how you're tackling it. And you're just rolling out. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're talking to this people. We've brought in this person. We've got these teams on place. We're doing this. And you have all the steps are there. People go, all right, that's the way you handle this kind of thing. And you will maintain the trust. You talk to the people affected. You let them know you've got a problem. You let them know what you're doing. And this is how you minimize the damage and working through it. It's all common sense. Nothing I'm telling you here is surprising anybody listening to this message right now, but it's not being done. But it must be done. We're all in a world that is dependent on information technology. We're all vulnerable to the weaknesses in information technology and the way things are organized. So we've got to deal with it. again, marketing should be part of the incident response team. You guys, as a matter of fact, if I was the head of marketing in a mortgage link, I would want to be the head of the incident response team. I would want, because I want to be responsible for getting that message out to our customers and all of our vendors and all of our partners, how we're handling this situation. I want it to be done right, because if you do this thing right, you'll save the company. You do it wrong, company could be down the drain. And there's no exaggeration on that. Now let me ask all of you listening to this presentation right now, who would you get a loan from? The company that aggressively touted its commitment to protect your information with its cybersecurity program, or the company that had nothing to say about it and didn't want to talk about it at all? I mean, come on. I mean, whoa, but if I lost my control here, what's going on? No, I haven't. Let me go back here. Okay, that is the end of our presentation at this time. Thank you, and now we will take some questions.
All right, thank you both very much. All right, we have a question that just came in here, and the question is, it seems kind of risky to me to become a cybersecurity evangelist in my company. What do you say about that?
Mitch, please take that.
Certainly if you have the support of top management, then being an evangelist is actually a plus. It shows that you're a leader in the organization and that you're certainly being proactive about the problem. It really is where you're coming from in the conversation that's going to determine, how people take towards your response. But clearly, nobody wants to be in an organization that is fighting for their reputational life. We go look at even Target. 4 or 5 years later, people still associate Target with the breach that they had. So clearly, at this point, the objective is to manage the brand. Everybody understands that managing the brand is absolutely critical to the industry. And I think as long as you have top management support, that's really the critical piece.
I think Mitch is correct about that. And remember, as an industry, as a player within this industry, you have ethical and legal responsibilities to handle the cybersecurity issues and the information issues correctly. You have the law and you have morality on your side. It's much easier to be an evangelist in that kind of a position, and therefore you are on the right side of the argument. So I would urge you to step out. What a great way to distinguish yourself in the company as a leader, by taking on the right issue at the right time.
Thanks, Ray. All right, I have a question here that's directed at Mitch. Mitch, how can we convince management to let marketing be part of an incident response team?
So I think that's a really critical piece. If we look at where organizations have really fallen down from a brand standpoint, again, we go look at, for example, the Office of Personnel Management, which did a really horrible job, or Equifax. Because of the fact that the people who are responsible for the brand, the marketing team, were not intimately involved and not in advance prepared for what they were going to do. In the case, for example, of Equifax, they set up a breach response website that they didn't even own. So people went off and said, well, how do I know this is not just another part of the attack? So the marketing department, of course, would be smart enough to understand the brand implications of all kinds of things, the messages that are going out, how they're going out. They so given that this is a brand, if we go look at it, we said that cybersecurity is a business problem, not an IT problem. The breach is also a business problem, and responding to it is a business and reputation problem. And who best in the organization to be able to go respond to managing the reputation but the marketing team?
Great. Another question here directed at either of you. Do you have any suggestions on how to come up to speed with cybersecurity at a business level?
First of all, organizationally, to commit that you're going to, that you know that it's time. The time has arrived, and so the first step in building any kind of a cybersecurity program is, once you've gotten the commitment, okay, we're going to do this thing. We want to tackle this problem. Is you need to get an assessment. You have to have a cybersecurity assessment of the organization, and after that assessment is done, then you'll know what you've already done, where you're okay and where you're not, and then that assessment should have a prioritized task list associated with it that you start to tackle. And you need to know that to put a cybersecurity program into a company is not something that happens overnight. You got to think, you know, okay, where are we today and where are we going to be a year from now? Okay, it's going to take a year to do this thing. There's a lot of different pieces, and there's got to be a culture change that's got to occur. So you start biting it off one piece at a time. Mitch likes to say you're like peeling an onion, you know, getting down to the core of it, and that's the way it happens. But it starts just one step at a time. It's a journey that you're getting ready to take.
And I think another component of that is the overall organizational employee cybersecurity training program. Right, the cybersecurity program training program has multiple components in it. You know, one part of it is for management. They need one message. One part of it is for IT. They need a message, and one part of it is for the general audience. And clearly, education is a huge component. There are a number of programs out there. We can help you with that, and those programs are typically online. They're interactive. They're easy to execute, and they're affordably priced.
Great, thank you both. All right, any other questions? All right, well, Ray and Mitch, this has been fantastic information that you. Yes.
John, this is Dustin. I've got a couple of questions that were sent to me. So we got a couple more. So I've got, what is the best way to develop framework around responding to a phishing email, which has become a major problem today?
So I think there's a couple of answers to that question. So the first answer is you've got to have an employee training program. We have some mortgage clients who use the product that we sell, and they do when they first start up this product, they go off and build a baseline, and they say, you know, what percentage of the employees will respond to, and they start with a very easy, in theory, should be detected by the employee phishing attack. And we have organizations that anywhere from 25 to 50% of the employees will click on a link. Now, in the training program, what happens is they get directed to a training site and nothing bad occurs. Obviously, in the case, I mean, we just heard from a lawyer partner of ours, one of their clients, is not our client, just sent a wire out for $250,000 yesterday because they didn't have a good training program, and the bookkeeper went off and thought that this phishing email was real and wired $250,000 somewhere. And so, you know, the training program is a critical part of that for sure. The second piece of it is to set up policies and procedures. One of the things that we have seen, and hopefully many of you already have cyber risk insurance in place, but we're seeing from the insurers, they say that if you don't have a program to go manage these phishing email campaigns, you know, in terms of how your employees are dealing with these things, that they won't give you any coverage. So even though you're paying your premium, active a formal program to deal with this, you actually don't have any coverage, which is very saddening when you have an event. That's number two. Number three, you got to decide, you know, what kind of risk you're willing to take. So maybe there's a floor on wire transfers that says if it's below this amount, where the policy looks like this because it's a convenience versus security issue. But as soon as the wire exceeds a certain amount, whatever that number is for your organization is going to vary. You know, for some organizations it might be 10,000. For some organizations it might be 100,000. You know, we're going to go off and do an extended validation process. In particular, you know, maybe for some wires you need to have two sets of eyes on the wire. Certainly for high value wires, you may want to do an out of band verification with the recipient that says, is this the right wire transfer account information? So I think there's a number of factors that we can certainly help you with it, but the biggest thing is to make sure you have formalized what you're doing, and don't just hope that employees are going to do the right thing. It's not because they're bad employees. It's because they're very busy doing a lot of things, and they just accidentally go off and say, I just want to get this thing off my plate, and do things that they shouldn't do.
Yeah, I've got something to add here real quick to that phishing side of things. With respect to the phishing training, when you're sending out, if you use one of these systems and you send these phishing emails out, a couple of things. We've had clients in the past who would ask them, well, how frequently are you doing phishing emails? And I go, oh, we do them once a quarter. And oh, well, that's not enough. You want to do these things once a week, easily once a week. Now it's all automated, and you can send different emails to different people, and so it's not like it takes a lot of time. And it's okay if people make mistakes. That's where you want them to make the mistake. You know, in that. In your training system, it's great. They make a mistake, then they get some additional training, and that's, everyone's in it together. And as part of that, someone who you really want to target with those is your top leadership, because people are targeting them because they have the most control over the organization and access to the greatest amount of money, and so they're going to be targeted over and over, and they're also going to be spoofed. I mean, people are going to act like they're the top leadership when they're coming down to the rest of the staff. So you want some of your emails set up that like spoof emails coming from the top leadership. You want to be very aggressive with this tool. You're paying for it. They're not that expensive, but you're paying for it anyway. So use it, and use it completely, because the employees are the weakest link in the chain, the security chain. So you want to really bring them up to speed and get them tight, and that'll change the security culture in the entire organization.
All right, thanks, Ray. Mitch, that was great stuff. I've got one more question, John. What questions do you ask your vendor partners regarding their security program? Is this part of the vendor due diligence annual requirements, as in vetting the vendors?
It is a requirement both under Gramm-Leach-Bliley and also under the New York cybersecurity law. So what we make a distinction between vendor risk management, which is the old school, are you licensed in the state and things like that, and vendor cyber risk management. We work with our clients to go off and produce a questionnaire, a very specific cyber risk questionnaire, that we're going to ask them about what their policies and procedures are, and what they're doing to go protect in particular protect our data. And do they have an incident response? There's a whole bunch of different questions. And even for those of you that are using outsourced vendors to help you with the overall vendor risk management program, we found for many of these vendors, we have the ability to go off and supplement the standard set of questions that the vendor sends out with our own custom set of questions. And we've gone off and done that with a couple of the vendors that are in that business. So that's definitely an option as well. And yes, it is a requirement.
Something that's been happening lately that will be of interest to you is that with various clients, all of you use loan origination systems. There are like 125 different loan origination systems servicing your industry. And so you send all your client information up into these systems so that you can, qualify these loans and whatnot. Well, so this third-party vendor of yours has a lot of information that you are responsible for. And so according to the New York law, these people have an obligation to you to be able to tell you who is touching that information and how are they touching that information. Now, we can tell you that not all loan origination systems are equal out there, and some are doing a better job of that than others, but that is a sensitive component of protecting people's information for you guys in this industry, is these loan origination systems you're using, and putting pressure on them to monitor the information that they are that they are responsible to you for, that you're giving them from your clients, monitoring it and being able to tell you who's touched that information, how long did they touch it, were they authorized to touch it, did anyone exfiltrate that data without authorization? They should be able to tell you that in standardized reports going back to your team. And that's a big issue for third-party vendors for your industry.
And even if you, for most of you on this call, you're not going to be under the requirement of the New York law, but even under the requirement of the individual state privacy laws, and 48 states now out of 50 have privacy laws, without regard to whether you choose to outsource something to a third party, like say an Ellie Mae and Compass, for example, you're still responsible for the protection of the privacy of that information. And if that information is breached or the security controls are not adequate, then you're the one who is going to get the hit from the state regulator over that. Not, I mean, they may go after an Ellie Mae as well, but they're certainly going to go after you because you're the person that the customer has entrusted the data with, and you're the one that the customer has the relationship with. So, outsourcing and cloud vendors in general, are becoming a bigger piece of it. We work very closely with our clients to understand what their cloud vendors are doing and not doing, and making sure that they are doing their best in terms of an active cybersecurity program to protect our clients' information.
Great, thank you both. Dustin, any other questions come in?
I've got no more on my end.
Okay, very good. Well, look, Mitch and Ray, thank you so much for this very valuable information today. And look, everybody, I have a favor to ask of you. We want to make sure that we do our best to deliver quality content. So if there's anything that you'd like to learn about from our webinars, please let us know that as well. And if you could all do me a favor, please, you'll be receiving a survey within about an hour. And if you could please take the time to fill it out, that would be much appreciated. So thank you all for attending today, and look forward to you attending our upcoming webinars throughout the year.